Erik Killmonger is, in my opinion, so far, the best villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe series of films. Now, before I go any further with the video, this video will contain major spoilers for Black Panther. So if you have not seen Black Panther, I would highly advise you to watch the film and then come back and listen to my little diatribe here about this villain. And of course, give me your thoughts on whether or not you agree. But before you do, hear me out. So, one of the issues in the MCU has been that the villains that they've had have not been portrayed to the best of their ability, especially from the hardcore comic book fans that watch these movies. Now, I'm not saying that all the villains are trash or that they're bad. It's just that most of the time the big criticism is the villains of the film just aren't that compelling. And I think it really hit home for me when I saw Avengers Age of Ultron. Because in Avengers Age of Ultron, Ultron is a great, great villain, one of my favorites from the comics, and I felt that the film version of him was missing something. Maybe he was too jokey, maybe he wasn't as artistically, articulate as he was in the comic, but he was just not what I was hoping he would be, and they even got James Spader to do a great voice for him. Now, recently, though, in the past few years, we've seen some pretty fun villains come out of the MCU after Age of Ultron. But a lot of them are just twirly mustache, kind of cheesy villains. Case in point, the villain from Thor 2 and the villain from Ant-Man. Yellow Jacket was a cool suit, but he was kind of one-dimensional. But recently, like I said, there have been some good ones. My previous favorite villain of the MCU before I saw Black Panther was Baron Zemo from Civil War, because I thought it was very interesting how this guy was such a great manipulator that he managed to get the Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers, to actually fight against each other. He didn't need to have any powers. He wasn't a wispy mustache twirling villain. He wasn't a mastermind. He was he was kind of a mastermind, but he was just a guy who had an agenda and in many ways successfully did what he needed to do, which is break up the Avengers. I thought that was a great, great character, and they really did a great job of that movie with that character. Now, another one I want to bring up real briefly is Michael Keaton's portrayal of the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Even though the Vulture, is not seen as one of the legendarily great Spider-Man villains, even though he's one of the original ones, he's actually from Spider-Man issue number 2, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2. The way he was portrayed in the movie I thought was fantastic, not just because Michael Keaton is a great actor, but because I loved how, he was also a family man, and he was a guy who did things for his family, and in many ways, even though he was a psychopath, you could relate as to why he did things, and I like villains where you can kind of relate to them, and he's the one you can relate to even more so than Zemo. And we're going to get to Erik Killmonger and why he stands out here in a moment, but really enjoyed Michael Keaton's performance as the Vulture, and he's probably my third favorite. Now Killmonger's my number one. Now, we haven't seen Thanos enough for me to really judge that. Let's wait till the movie comes out this May, Avengers 3, but the reason why Erik Killmonger was such a great villain, all right, number one, he was portrayed by Mr. Michael B. Jordan, and if anybody here does not know this by now, Michael B. Jordan is a tremendous actor. And yeah, he hasn't made all great movies, but just the collaborations that he's done, like just the handful that he's done with Ryan Coogler, have all been fantastic. Adonis Creed in the movie Creed, he was incredible. He was really, really, he hit you right in the gut in Fruitvale Station. I promoted that movie in my Black Panther review, and if you haven't seen that, you got to check out Fruitvale Station. I think it's still on Netflix. Great, great movie. He was also in Chronicle. He was also in Red Tails, but he didn't really do much in that movie. And he's been in a couple of stinkers, he was in that Fantastic Four reboot from 3 years ago that was trash. And it's funny because he did voices. He did the voice of Cyborg in Justice League, the animated Flashpoint Paradox thing. So that's kind of cool that he was in that. But, Michael B. Jordan nailed this role. And the reason why Killmonger is a great character is because, much like with Zemo, not so much with Zemo as much as with Vulture, is he's a villain that made a very good point. Here's a very scarred person, a person who grew up traumatized, a person who, his father died when he was a little boy. He went off to war. He was in Afghanistan. he's killed people, and the way that he talks about, and this is really good acting and storytelling, the way that Killmonger discusses killing people in the movie, he sort of brags about it, but it's almost like he's bragging about it from a remorseful way, but he tries to hide it. Like he's telling, yeah, I killed, but it's almost like he's not proud of it, but he wants to pretend like he is. Like he's putting on a front. And so he feels like this tough life that he had really all started with the fact that T'Challa's dad killed his dad. And really, you can't even argue that. You know, it makes you wonder as you're watching the film, and I've seen the movie twice now, it really makes you wonder, what would this guy's life have been like if his dad had never died? Now, obviously, his dad was a traitor, and, you know, all those things went down. I'm not saying that, you know, it wasn't a justified killing, even though it did go too far. Maybe it did go too far. I mean, that's really the debate, right? But then you wonder, how would his life have turned out otherwise, you know? And when he shows up, he fights T'Challa, and he beats him pretty much fair and square. I mean, there was no cheating there at all. He beats him, and he has these grandiose sort of, I guess you can say, visions of what Wakanda should be doing. And every point that he made is true. And pretty much what the storyline in the movie was, is that he feels that black people, and he says people like us, he's talking about African Americans, or not African Americans, worldwide, like just black people have been oppressed for years and years and years, and that he thinks that Wakanda has the technology and the resources to create this sort of civil war. It's very much like the Malcolm X MLK thing, where in his mind he wants to go to war with the oppressors, but they don't play up anything with Erik Killmonger necessarily being a racist towards white people. I did not see that in that character at all, but you could tell that he's angry because there are injustices happening all over the world and race wars, and he feels like with the technology and the power they have in Wakanda, they could stop it, but T'Challa's family hasn't done anything about it. So it's one of those things where he is, you know, a revolutionary in a way. He's a revolutionary, and that's why so many people kind of flock to him and agree with him. And unfortunately, what wound up happening is it created another civil war. You know, the whole idea was that he was going to have a civil war against, you know, the oppressors, but what wound up happening is it was a civil war within Wakanda. Even though it's kind of ironic that we were first introduced to Black Panther and Captain America Civil War, and there was a civil war in Wakanda. But I like this whole idea of, you know, him wanting to take Wakanda and make it a global superpower. And in reality, he probably could have. I mean, he has some people he had to beat, like, obviously Tony Stark has tons of technology still, and there's other Avengers all over the world, you know, Doctor Strange. This wouldn't have been easy for him to rebel against them. But I like the fact that he made some really good points in the movie about how, you know, this country's been isolated from the world, hiding, and they're doing it to protect themselves, but what about those outside the world who need protecting? And I like how at the end of the film, what made him such a powerful villain, when I say powerful, I don't mean like power like Thor, Scarlet Witch, like physical power, like fighting power. I mean powerful as in he hits you with power, like his message is powerful. You get what I'm saying? What made him such a powerful villain with a powerful message is that in the post-credit scene or in the mid-credit scene, T'Challa agrees to use Wakanda's resources to help out other countries and other people. So at the end of the day, you know, he was right. Like, he listened to Erik Killmonger's existence. Plus, that's his cousin. And it really is a sad movie when it comes to that character, because this was a family that broke up. And, you know, T'Chaka killed his own, you know, King T'Chaka killed his own brother. And that's always hard. You know, there's a lot of Lion King parallels here, I noticed. But no, you know, in the movie, you almost wanted them to, like, make up at the end and work together. You know, and they almost had that. Like, they teased it when, you know, Black Panther shows him the sunset, but he still decides to stab himself because it's almost like in his own brain, he was too far gone. Like, you're not going to put me in jail. You're not going to make me a prisoner. I'd rather die than abide by your rules. So it's almost like he found peace with himself. Like, he finally got to rule Wakanda for a little while, and he got to see the Wakandan, you know, sunset, but that was it for him. Like, he got what he wanted to do. And it's a tragic story. It really is kind of a tragedy. You know, I feel like with Black Panther, T'Challa, Black Panther's story is not really the centerpiece. I feel like the story of Killmonger and T'Challa's family, his mother, his father, his little sister, and of course Lupita, I think were the real strong, powerful points in that movie that I think made it, it made it special. I think they made it special. It was a great movie. I mean, I still think Civil War is probably my favorite MCU film. Black Panther is probably number 2 or number 3. I got to think about that. I'm probably going to rewatch Cap 2, see how I feel about it now. But as far as, like, characters and as far as, like, the villain, I feel like Erik Killmonger is my favorite villain of the MCU so far. A layered character, a complex character, one with a background that you can understand, and one that you're not really rooting for him to beat, T'Challa. You're not rooting for that, but you are rooting for him to, maybe T'Challa should listen to him. And he does. He actually ends up doing it after his death. So what he kind of wanted to do, even though it was a lot more peaceful method of doing it, wound up happening at the end of the day. So what a great, great story that was. And it's going to be interesting to see when they come back with Black Panther 2 how they're going to top that, because I think the story was just really well done, and Michael B. Jordan is a very special actor. So let me know what you think. Do you agree? Is he your favorite MCU villain? If not, who is? And tell me why in the comments. Thank you all, and I'll look forward to reading those. Y'all have a good one.